Welcome back everyone to Tarantula Exotics, and today we're doing some enclosures for some new editions arriving tomorrow. And by the time you see this video, I'm actually going to have the new editions because I won't be publishing it until probably Wednesday. It is currently Monday, but I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this one. I'm going to build the enclosures here. We're going to be doing 4 for sure, but I'm actually going to do 2 extra ones just in case they send a freebie or something like that, which can happen obviously, so we'll prepare for that just in case. But I do have multiple enclosures here that we will be setting up for the new editions. Now where I want you guys to come into play is I want you guys to comment down below based on the enclosures and maybe some hints I throw in along the way to guess what 4 new editions I have coming in, and I'm curious if anyone can guess all 4 of them. There's no prize on the line other than just kind of bragging rights, so you know it's not a huge competition. But if you are interested in winning a prize, I do have a giveaway going on currently. I will have a card to the video giveaway up somewhere. Anyways, all the details are in that video, go check it out. Back to the actual enclosures, got some gloves here, got some substrate off to the side. We're going to be filling these up with substrate, and we'll be going over for each enclosure a little hint on what it might be coming in, and let's see if you guys can guess it. So, for enclosure number 1, got the gloves on. Enclosure number 1, we're going to do one of these guys. I'm telling you that Canadian Tire, and yes, I really am back Canadian. But these seem to be pretty clear acrylic little boxes here. I've kind of used the soldering iron to poke holes all on the top to give it some airflow. This will be for a fossorial species, so there's one hint right there. Usually a pretty misunderstood species. I think a lot of people have this kind of perception of this particular species, and I think that they have a bad rep sometimes. But I've had one in the past. It was an absolute beauty. I loved it. It wasn't very aggressive or defensive like most people would say it would be, but it still was an interesting little tea to have, so I'm excited to have another one in my collection. This is a similar but different color form of it. So there's your big hint there for number 1. That's a little bit of an easy, maybe a giveaway there, but let's see if you guys can figure out which one it is. So I've got my mix of like potting soil and eco-earth in here, so we're going to make sure it's plenty thick because it is a fossorial species and it will be doing plenty of burrowing. So we've got all that. Pack that guy down. This sling will be 1/2 inch, so the holes are definitely small enough for it where it's not going to escape, but big enough to give it plenty of airflow just in case it wants it. I'm going to take some of this dry substrate up top, sprinkle it on top of here, just so it's not all wet. And we'll give it a nice layer of dry substrate as well. Perfect. Okay, we're just going to do a starter burrow kind of right in this corner here. Because again, it is a fossorial species, so we'll see if it ends up liking it or not. So we got starter burrow. We're going to add a little bit of sphagnum moss, just mostly for texture. There we go. And I should have a small little piece of cork bark like this. We're going to put just over top of the burrow to kind of help it get in there. Work. Okay, just like that. And now it has like a hide/burrow. And that's pretty much all we're going to do for the first one. I think I might add some more sphagnum moss after this, but maybe actually a fake plant in there just to give it some anchor points because it can be a pretty prolific weber. Another hint right there, but that's it for number 1. On to number 2. This is actually just a dram violet. I don't know the size of this one, but it's a pretty big one. Another fossorial species / terrestrial. This one's only going to be 1/4 inch, so that's why it's got the dram vial. Again, we're going to fill it with some moist substrate at the bottom. Just a little chunk of it. Just like so. There. Got all that moist substrate down there. We're going to pack it nice and deep. And we're just going to put a little bit of dry substrate on top. Just like that. Pack that down. Maybe a little bit more. And there we go. So this is a terrestrial / fossorial species, 1/4 inch. It is one I have owned recently actually. So that is a bit of a hint. And probably one of my favorite underrated species that I've owned. It is a New World terrestrial / fossorial, so it is New World, and it is not one of the big three, so the Grammostolas, Brachypelmas, or little coddles. And because of that, I will say this, it's probably just as docile. It's one I think goes unnoticed on a lot of lists, or is also very popular, or has a species that is not this species that is also very popular. Hopefully that makes sense. That's your hint, that's as much as I'm giving you guys. We're going to put a little sphagnum moss in here as well. Just that little piece right here looks perfect. Back right there. And enclosure number 2 is done. Third enclosure is actually going to be a bit of a different one. I just got these off of Amazon. I think they had like $10 for this thing. Tons of airflow, which is good. But I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this enclosure just yet, but I know that it's a 1/2 inch, so I know it won't get everyone to use holes, which is why I'm going to use it for this one to try and see how well it does. Alright, so we're going to pack down with some wet substrate first, just at the bottom. This is an arboreal species, so that's a little hint right there. And it's closely related to a species I've talked about quite a bit on this channel. One of my kind of undeservingly often gets missed out of, or often gets left out of a lot of lists. I think it's a great terrestrial or arboreal New World tarantula for people who are interested in arboreal New Worlds that aren't kind of looking at the avicularias or things like that. And it is semi-fossorial as a spiderling, just like its very closely related species brethren. So we got just enough substrate in there at the bottom. Might put a little bit more in, not too much, maybe some of the dry substrate on top. There we go. A little more of that actually. Alright, I'm liking how that looks. So we have wet on the bottom, dry on top, and we should have something here I can use as a tree or kind of larger climbing surface. Alright, so I've got a nice big piece of cork bark right here. We're going to put this one just on an angle here, kind of standing up, just like that. Buried in a little bit. And looking good. So, we have our New World arboreal enclosure all set up with a sphagnum moss. Just add some texture in it. There we go. And we're all set. I will be adding water dishes to all these once they're finished, before they get here. So just a quick note on that. And that will bring us to our last enclosure and the last tarantula on the list. Alright, so the last tarantula on our list is going into here. This is actually a filter thing you can get from most pet stores. Looks like a cheap filter thing. I've converted a little bit. There's a big hole in the top, so what I've done is I've taken the lid from a critic container and actually glued it onto there. Let that dry, and now that it's all dry, it's all good. It kind of blocks the escape of a smaller tarantula like this one, which is only 1/4 of an inch at the juvenile stage, or sorry, at the spiderling stage. And the big hint here is the total value of this order. So we figured out the last three. You don't know how much this one costs. The total value of this order is $350 before taxes or shipping, and it is being ordered from Tarantula Canada. So if you want to look at the prices, see if you figure out the other three, maybe this one becomes a little bit easier to guess. And if it does, kudos to you guys. Maybe you got all 4, maybe you got 2 out of the 4 correct. But you'll find out in the next video when I actually unbox them, which will be coming out probably in about, I'm going to say less than a week, but I don't know exactly when. So I'll try and schedule it based on when I have time to edit this one, and then obviously edit the next one shortly after that. So with that in mind, we're going to add some substrate in here. This is an arboreal tarantula as well, and it is a New World arboreal tarantula. And again, it is not an avicularia. or a carabina, or epipora, which leaves only a few options left. This is a very unique tarantula as well, and I think I've already said too much. So let's leave it at that and see if you guys can figure out what it is I'm actually getting. Now they did say they like drier substrates, so I am going to make sure there's enough of this drier substrate on top, and I'll do a small amount of moist substrate at the bottom, just in case. I'm also going to add some more ventilation along the sides, because I know this species does like a lot of ventilation, and typically likes it a little bit warmer as well. So we've got that all done. Next up we have some pieces of cork bark in here. So we'll get these guys out, and let's see if I can make this work. Take out a little bit from the back to make this fit. Just going to put it on a bit of an angle like this, recover it up. And while this is an arboreal tarantula, it tends to stay lower to the ground within the trees, if that makes any sense. Alright, we've got that. We're going to have some sphagnum moss in here as well. I'm going to both crumple some up, as well as leave some chunks in here. Kind of just like so. And I'm actually going to add another piece of cork bark in here, just kind of as a additional decoration. So, there we go. That is what the finished enclosure looks like. You see multiple pieces of cork bark and some sphagnum moss, as well as some substrate. I just realized this cork bark is actually the wrong way. I wanted it in like this. So put it back in like that. And perfect. I think that's it. So with that guy coming in as well, at 1/4 inch size, we've got the other 3. What I'm going to do is actually take these other 2 enclosures, add substrate off camera. Obviously there's no way to predict what it's going to be or if there is actually going to be a freebie involved. So I will just kind of do these up off camera, and then I'll do the unboxing and we'll see if we actually need these or not. But I think the other Canadian Tire enclosure, the same as the first one, I'm going to do anyways, and probably rehouse one of my other slings into there in a future video as well. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave your guesses down below on the 4 spiders I've ordered, and let's see if anyone gets it right. So I will see you guys in the next one.